Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Success Secrets Revealed live stream TV show, I guess. My name is Ronald Couming, and I come to you live weekly on Mondays. I used to come to you live on my Internet Marketing and Business Solutions radio show. We had 1.7 million, we still do, 1.7 million listeners weekly on the radio station, WCAP 980 AM. But because of COVID, they're not manning the station. So what I did is I created this live stream, Success Secrets Revealed, to bring on guests, current information. And what I do is we go live, and this is shared through multiple social media platforms, both mine and our guests. And then I take out the audio, I send it to the radio station, and they pump it out so all the other people can hear it in a rotation. So I just wanted to make sure that we were giving out current information. So I kind of pivoted a little, and now you get to see my face. Although some people have told me I have a face made for radio. So, but all that aside, I just want to say that's about that. And we don't, none of the guests get paid. All the guests who come on this show, they come on just to give back. They don't pay to come on the show. They don't get paid to come on the show. I don't get paid to do this show. This is just us giving back. We do have one sponsor, and that's my company that pays for the whole platform, the VA, all the promotional pieces and everything that we do, as well as getting everything up and out there. And that's RCS Online Solutions. We basically help businesses create or update their online presence and get their products and services out in front of their ideal customers and clients to achieve even greater success. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, you can have the best service, the best product, the best solution to a person's problem. But if they can't find you when they're searching for it, they can't even consider you. And no one's searching for your name, and no one's searching for your company's name. If they know that, they're calling you. So if you are coming up first on Google or YouTube for your name or your company name, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, so what? You need to come up first on Google and on the search engines for the product, service, or solution you provide, because that's what they're looking for. So enough of that. Today we are blessed. You're going to hear from somewhat of a kind of champion in the industry. He's been around forever. How many people do you know actually retired at 29? And not only did he retire at 29, he retired at 29 in 2000. The year 2000, 19 years ago. Maybe we should not do the math. We'll just leave it at that, okay? And but he retired after 5 years. He started a company, and he'll tell us about this, in August of 1995. And by 2000, he was so successful, he was able to retire because he worked on recurring income, and something that I'm a big fan of as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing from that. He also now has 2 different companies, and he's going to tell us about what those companies are and what he's doing right now. But learning from somebody who has done so much is just one of the great benefits, because I love when we bring on these guests and they talk about how they got to where they are. It really helps people who are trying to learn different ways, so they can navigate those pitfalls, so they don't necessarily have to make all the mistakes that they do. But now with us, you have Charly Caldwell. How are you, Charly?
I'm doing great, and what a wonderful, wonderful intro. Wow. Yeah, and I just want to share real quick, thank you so much for having me on this beautiful show. I love what you're doing, and I love how you're doing it, and your dedication as you and I share that common past of helping businesses for, it sounds like, decades, and really helping them kind of sort out, what do I really have to do to go after results online and offline, and pay attention to those things. So thank you so much for having me, and it's an honor to be here. So,
listening to your history and talking to you just prior to you coming on, I only need these to read. I don't need them. Yeah, but listening to you, I mean, you've done some amazing things. I mean, in 1995, I mean, what were most people doing? I don't know. They were probably playing a video game or something. Can you tell us a little, I mean, what do you even start? I mean, there's so many places we can start with you, right? With so many points of success, and then stepping off for a while, and then what brought you back, and then what are you doing? But, in 1995, you were 24 years old and decided to start your own company. What were you doing at 24? And when you started to start to do your own company, what was that? And, then obviously I'm going to ask you, did you have any mentors or coaches or anything?
Yeah. So let me kind of break down the build up to 94 and then what pivotally shifted in about 93, 94 that led to the success of selling a business in 2000. And I have to it gives me chills just telling you this and being able to tell this story, because I know it's helped hundreds of people that I've told it to. Like, I've coached a lot of people on these topics as well. So let me kind of build the case for it, because I think people will find that thread of commonality through, and maybe where they're at in their life or their business. So let me paint the frame. When I was a young boy, I was working with my grandpa, and we would do handyman work, but we also had a wood shop. And what he taught me is two major things. One is the love of helping people, the love of being there to, help people either clean out eavesdrops or, rake their lawn, but also build things that make their lives easier. And that's a key piece to this. What are we building to keep people's lives or make people's lives easier? Like, I always ask the question, what are you creating to help people improve their lives or grow their business? And with your intro, it's really clear to me what you're doing to help people improve their business, like grow their business. And I love that. So those seeds were planted early on for me. Then in the late 80s, I got into a computer company. The owner of it, Craig Colston, rest in peace, my man, was so generous. He said, Char, I'm just selling computers kind of part-time. You can take this thing over, basically, and run it like however you want to run it. So it was business boot camp while I was going to University of Michigan to get a computer programming degree. And while I was running that company, I ran, back in the day, you may know what this is, a bulletin board system available by computer modems, those things that connected and the screech and all that stuff in the early days of the online era. And the beautiful part was I got a lot of people on that bulletin board system throughout the early 90s who, as the internet gained popularity and the World Wide Web gained popularity in the mid 90s, they naturally evolved into saying that they'd like an internet email address and they'd like to connect to the internet with a local phone number. Two critical components. So about 94, I realized, you know what? I don't know where this internet thing's going, but it seems to be gaining popularity, as weird as it is to say today. And in 94, I was also, the bulk of my income was trading time for money, meaning that I would build computers and then we go install them in homes and in businesses. But it's pretty much as good as your last sale kind of mentality, meaning that I would go and charge them a fee, put the computer in, that transaction was done. And I remember coming back from one of those transactions. It was a beautiful older lady, and I had a weak spot for older ladies. And she just said, "Hey, Char, can I get you to reduce that price?" And I remember how it all worked out. And I was coming back in. I was doing the math in my head for that particular deal, keeping in mind that when I built computers, I would go to their house, install it, and walk them through, back in the days of DOS and WordPerfect.
Oh, DOS.
Through how to get in, and power it on, and print. So it was a couple hours with her. I got back and I was like, I think we made like $50 in profit on a $4,000 system after everything was said and done. I was like, boy, did that one go sideways. And there's got to be a better way. And as soon as I said that, it must have been a universal calling, right? I come stomping up the stairs in our office building that we rented a beautiful set of offices in. And the owner of the building is a good friend of mine. His name is Ed. Rest in peace, Ed. Amazing guy. Every day at 4:30, like clockwork, he'd crack open a beer and you'd hear it echo down the halls and you hear and you hear and you hear him go, and he'd smile. And it was 4:30 because they closed at 4:30. And I'm like, how is that even possible? I'm going to be working the rest of the night just to keep up with orders and do all the other stuff. And so I went into his office after stomping up the stairs that day. And I said, Ed, tell me something good. And he goes, Char, man, you're usually happy and go lucky. And what's going on? And I told him my story. And he goes, oh, it sounds to me like you haven't heard of the model that our business uses. And his business was an insurance company. And I said, I'm all ears. So he told me he keeps customers happy and they pay him every quarter, every half year, every year, their premium, home, life, auto insurance. Right. And I remember just having a major epiphany. I was like, oh. And I remember walking out of there and thinking about it was such a light bulb moment for me. And I probably had heard it before, recurring revenue, those kind of things. But it was that moment that I needed to hear it, and there was an emotional connection to it. And when I thought about that, I was like, oh, and that was the pivot. I said, from here forward, I'm going to really journal and think through and strategize on how to get recurring revenue. So we ended up pivoting to do more business-based computer service and sales with service contracts that were monthly or yearly. So we started to introduce that. But it was a real kind of a no-brainer when the internet started gaining popularity and people were like, hey, Char, I'd pay you like $60 a month to get on a local number for live internet. And I was like, oh, well, I just got to figure that out. So I got the Cisco routers and the Livingston terminal servers, and I built my own Linux server. It actually was BSD Unix in the day. And I put that all together, and I got all the talk, and I got about 10 USR robotics modems, the high-end ones. And I built a little thing to put them in there, and I put 10 of them together, and I got 10 phone lines, and I got a T1 line, which back in the day was like cat's meow for data.
Oh, yeah.
Flipped on my internet service provider business with the help of my wife at the time. And that was the summer of 95 was research, purchase, and keeping in mind, this was like a $40,000 investment, and I had about 8. And I was like, how am I going to make that work? So it was like just busting chops. We tried to get friends to help out. Nobody wanted to help out. It was way too much of a gamble. Imagine that with where the world's gone with the internet the last 30 years. It's like gamble. But the takeaways here are this, and I want to make sure we capture them for you and your beautiful audience. One, there was a love of helping people. There was a love, and there still is in all these realms. There was a love of improving people's lives somehow and growing people's businesses. So when I kept those as my markers, then applying my saying that I teach and we build from, recurring revenue equals personal freedom. That's why Ed was able to get done at 4:30 and have a celebratory beer every day. And I'm sitting there just hammering away till 9, 10 at night, trying to build computers, do proposals and all that, trading time for money.
Yep.
And that was a pivot. And so when the internet came to be, not that we grew, I was able to, maybe for about 6 months, I was able to keep a good schedule. And then we grew so fast, as you can imagine, it caught on like crazy. 4 months after we started in our house that was in a business district. Like we remember 5, when we started, it was maybe 1 to 3 subscribers a day. And then Christmas of 95, it went 5 to 50 new subscribers a day. Keep in mind, it was my wife and I and one other person at that time. And we moved into a storefront within 6 months. And that 5 to 50 new subscribers a day sustained all the way until a bigger company purchased us in October of 2000. It was insane, the growth rate. So recurring revenue was the basis for it. And I remember thinking, we're doing a lot of work to set people up on the internet, but once they're on, unless they screw their computer up, which we had a facility for, once they're on, it's just recurring revenue and it stacks. And at the height of it, we were billing out $225K a month, or $250K, I think, when we added the business aspect. But the subscription piece to it was the 85% of the profit. And that was just rebill. So the lesson here, as we think about everything I've shared, and I'll pause around, is number one, is the idea of being aligned with something you love to do. And I love to help people. I always have. That's Grandpa and me and just how I was up, my upbringing. 2 is really being clear about how you help people improve their lives somehow and or grow their business somehow. Now, the internet was a great facility for that. Initially, it was like, this is cool. I can access all this stuff, and I can access through the internet AOL with a local number. And then evolved into World Wide Web pages, World Wide Web sites, then web pages and websites. And then the last piece was, how can you connect that to some form of recurring revenue? And that's where I've become sort of the master over the last, since 2000, really helping people, no matter the business, online, offline, whatever it is, somehow introducing that kind of thing. That all being said, I'll pause. Any questions, thoughts, insights?
Well, I love it. I mean, you saw something at the very beginning. One, having those type of epiphanies, they're a game changer. And a lot of people, we call them W-2s, but they're trading time for money, and you only have so much time, and you're only going to make so much money. Some people will make more money than others because they add more value to the marketplace, not because they as individuals have more value as human beings. As Jim Rohn says, you get paid for the value of what you bring the marketplace. So But when you can get that recurring income, and that's what I love. I mean, we do the one-offs with the websites and we'll do the on-page SEO. But when we do the off-page SEO, when we're working with people, most of our contracts are 6 months to a year. I was sitting there. One of my clients is my insurance guy, and I'm sitting there. And you're right, because I got my car insurance and my auto, and every year I'm sending him $1,200, right?
Yeah.
And I'm never going to leave because I'm always going to have an auto. So whatever his kickback is, right, because I'm sure he has somebody else that he farms it out to, is his difference. But that's me times, 20,000 people. So having that recurring income, getting that epiphany and figuring it out. Now, it's great that, if we can get people to realize that, and most people do, but, the value of that, once they can get to that value, and not just here, but here, and then take action. Because, if you just get information and it becomes knowledge, shame on you. You have to have information and become action. You know what I mean? And, but yeah, I love it. That to me and that's been a game changer for me too, because a lot of that recurring income, like we do hosting for people. We do a whole bunch of different maintenance things for people. And that's almost like a 90% margin, because we've already got them where they need to be. And now we just need to keep them there. You know what I mean?
That's the magic.
But the value to them is, their business. I have clients that have made millions. So if somebody's paying me $500 a month, but they're making, $12,000 a month, are they really paying me $5,000 a month, or are they making $11,500, right? So, so I love that mentality, and good that you caught it. I mean, just hearing him say that, I mean, most people would have just said, that's cool, and walked away. But you put it together and put it into action.
Thank you.
Good for you. Yeah. And now talk to us a little bit more about what you're doing now, or if there is another gap in between there.
Yeah. So let me kind of frame up two things for the listeners and for you too, as we think about this. One, it's the power of $3 a day, $85 a month, about $255 a quarter. If you times that out to make it a year, each of those numbers are $1,000 a year. So when we think about, okay, what can I charge, 100 people $85 a month for? That's $100K a year, right? When we think about the math and the magic to it. And when I do a lot of coaching and a lot of helping with, and even some of my online training, we really try to work that magic there, because that seems doable. Like when we really dive into the math part of this, which is the exciting part, and it sounds to me like you're like, I am the intellect. Get me a spreadsheet and I'm on it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, wait, what can I do that I could charge $3 a day on a recurring basis, $85 a month, $285 a quarter? You know what I mean? Like, we can get the math behind it. And so I would challenge the listeners to really think about, if you're going to go after, or you already have a business, what does that look like? Now, the magic is this. If you know your expenses, your break-even expenses, that includes payroll, leases, internet connectivity, all that stuff, and you can match your recurring revenue to that break even. And I've helped, I would say hundreds now of people do this over the last 25, 30 years. There's a sensation of relief, because you're like, oh, all right, I got it. And usually you're on the up. There's a momentum built to get to that level. And I've seen so many people just sit back and go, whoa, it's a whole different world, when we have rebilling in place that happens automatically, recurring revenue, that matches our break even, and it's going beyond that. And we're like, oh. So then I ask you and the listeners, what's the behavioral patterns, habits, whatever that is, routines, that you need to start developing, tied to the questions you need to ask? And it's a big part of the work that I do, is help people ask the right questions. A great example of one technique that McDonald's employed, and I think it was the 80s or 90s, to increase profit 30%, was one question.
Want fries with that?
That's it. Yeah. And we're like, what's our want fries with that question? That ties to recurring revenue. So I want to make sure we kind of put the bow on what I just shared with you to challenge you on that. So it really comes down to the numbers, the questions, and the behavioral patterns. Go ahead.
And I'd like to give you 3 quick examples with using McDonald's. There's 2 things you'll never see at a McDonald's. 1 is the owner, and 2, quality food. Just my opinion, people. Just my opinion.
Yeah, the health side of it, they've been trying. especially in the U.S. It's slacking.
What also I saw was years ago, I read this article where they used to have these $1 hamburgers, but the $1 hamburgers, when you factored in the cost of the burger, the staff, everybody, really cost them $1.06 to produce and pass to the person over the counter, right? Paper, everything combined was $1.06. So it was a loss leader. But the soda that they were charging you $1.79 for, roughly, cost them 7 cents.
Yeah.
Those French fries that they were charging you $2.45 for, right, or the ones with the special rivets, cost an extra 40 cents or something, right? They cost them like 22 cents. So those add-ons made the difference. Same with the airline industry, by paying for the package, the bags. If you go now and you have resort fees, I mean, you used to get the internet for free. Now you got to pay $20 a day for it, right? Yeah. So sometimes you don't have to be the one to create the whole mechanism, right? Alex Stern, a good friend of mine who was the founder of Constant Contact and several other agencies, he has this whole thing he talks about, pillars of success. So, but sometimes you don't have to be the one to create the entire, the company, the entire product. But if you can find a better way of delivering it, more convenient, more effective, or you can even, let's say, it's just an add-on. So let's say it's a company or something, everything is fine, but you got this little piece that makes a part of it even better. They will either sub out people to you, or they will just buy you up and then just incorporate it in their package. So I love what you're saying, but I just want the listeners to know you don't necessarily have to be the one to create the whole thing. You just might need to see something. I mean, look at like Netflix. They went into Blockbuster and they said, hey, we got a better way, we think, of doing this. Let's work together. They said, no, we got this. And we see how that went, right?
Yeah. But I love what you shared, because there's the pieces of this are, especially for smaller business, and a lot of people that you and I may work with, like I think I know I work with them, but I think you do as well, like entrepreneurs, smaller business, just trying to get the momentum, maybe mom and pop shops up to medium business. But sometimes it requires a different mindset. What we call in our health, it's my health, wealth, and happiness brand, but it's also high performance coaching. I'm a certified high performance coach. Is that growth mindset?
Yeah.
It's saying, what am I not thinking about, or what beliefs are holding me back from going after, introducing somebody else's concept for how they're adding on, or the questions they ask that I may not feel comfortable as an owner asking right now, but I need to develop that comfort if I'm going to grow. And a lot of times that limiting belief is I could never do recurring revenue because I would have to offer this, that, and this, and I don't see how I could do that. And they just stop the thought pattern there instead of looking at what are the 3 ways I could do that.
Yep.
So if the listener, and you're listening to this and it resonates with you, to think about, okay, am I the people who are like, I could never do that? There's a red flag. The question you should be asking right out of the gate is, what are 3 ways that I could do that? And man, that feels so uncomfortable for people who've gotten in a rhythm of just, I can't do that. Don't know how I can't make that work. Versus, let me think about 3 ways I can make that work. So I hope that little flip in the questions.
Yep. And I love the way you say that. Yeah, it is. And what it really comes down to is I am a big fan of people getting a mentor or getting a coach, because sometimes, whatever got you to where you're at now will keep you there. And it might be, a little bit of more growth, or, something might happen. You might get a couple more referrals. But if you really want to grow a little bit more or get to the next stage, you've got to get a coach, because whatever thinking got you here is not going to get you there. And when you want a coach or a mentor, somebody who's been there or done that, preferably in your field, because you don't want to ask your broke brother-in-law for financial advice, right? You want to ask somebody who's been in the field. Like if you ask somebody who's never written a book, should I write a book? They're going to be like, no, what are you going to write a book about? It's too expensive. You can't. How are you going to deliver it? You know what I mean? They don't know. I mean, writing a book today, probably get it done for less than $1,000 now and just drop ship it. They won't even print it until somebody orders it, and they'll charge them $5, and you know what I mean. You get they take 2 and send you 3. You don't even know that there was an order placed, and you're getting $3 in the mail.
That's it.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
That's the magic.
Yeah, I love how you talk about that, and is that something that you help people with mindset stuff?
So let's forward this conversation into what I'm doing today. And the concept's real clear in terms of the way I'm approaching these things. One is making sure that people understand there's a success fulfillment, marketing, and development business. And that's what I've had as my brand since 1995. Internet services is the overarch of the brand name. And then inside of that, we handle development, but we're really aiming for continuity. Because as you know, today's name of the game, especially for offsite optimization, the way you describe it, is in the continuity of these things, the continuity of building relationships and building ethical inbound links and cross-linking, these kind of things, and insight linking, those kind of things. But there's a continuity to it. So we have, and we work with many of our customers we worked with over a decade, and that business is pretty full. But what happened in 2012 when I developed my second business, Life and Business Success Group, was I recognized a lot of people didn't know the right questions to ask. And so that's a teaching, training, coaching business, primarily online, especially with COVID. So the concept for that is that we do monthly trainings in life mastery. Another monthly training is an hour long. Another monthly training in business and internet mastery. Then we have Zoom roundtables, I call them. So after the trainings, we get together and we usually hang out. It can be anywhere from an hour, but it's usually 3 to 6 hours. And we're on Zoom and it's all recorded. And we're going around with the members and just saying what's showing up based on today's training or in your life or in your business right now that we can help you with. So the way the studio's set up, we're working off the whiteboard. And usually when we work out a strategy, and we do that during those roundtables, we take a picture of it and we put it in the replay so that not only the person who asks can benefit, but the others can benefit, and people who get into it later can rewatch the replays and do whatever it is for them as well. So that's that aspect of it. Yep. The second part to that, outside the life and business mastery piece, is high performance coaching. So since March of 2013, I've been a certified high performance coach, and that has changed my life. I didn't get into the details of when we sold the business, but I was about 275 pounds. My energy was tanked under one idea. I let the business run me instead of me running the business. And I got to tell you, it became 12, 15, 18-hour days, 6 days a week. We try to keep Sundays for ourselves just because of the sheer growth. Luckily, I had a intuition, and my wife at the time had it as well, to systemize. So we built our own database and access and connected it in the back end to MySQL, like Microsoft SQL Server. And we built this whole thing, and it really systemized. So when we brought employees on, there was a system to it.
Nice.
And most of the internet service providers back then were mom and pop shops. And I love that. I love the essence of that entrepreneurial spirit. But if they didn't get systems quick, they pretty well capped around 1,000 at the most, because you required systems to be able to, track customers and track, billing and all that kind of stuff. So the concept real clearly was this: we had to systemize and we had to grow. My side of it was I didn't really know back then how to run a business, and it was like holding on to a bull. It was just going nuts for like 3.5 years. The first year and a half was manageable. After that, it just went nutty. And that was because of the sheer just adoption of the World Wide Web at that time. People were coming in and going, I can get access to other parts of the world and just type in an address and I'm there. So it's kind of cool. So my point with all that was this: high performance coaching and me getting into high performance through Brendan Burchard. He's a main master. He's probably my biggest mentor over the last decade. He developed a curriculum, and I've been able to help literally thousands of people now, either in group format or in one-on-ones, making sure that they're living into being, these are some of the principles, being clear about who we are, how we interact, having appropriate amounts, and knowing what helps us have the right amount of energy, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, being very clear about courage. And what does it take for us to step up and ask? And it goes back to everything I've been kind of building the case for here. Asking the right questions and not feeling like, oh, I don't know if I can ask that of myself or somebody else because I don't know that I want to hear the answer. But just stepping into it and being, hey, I'm going to ask a question and I don't know where this is going to go. But doing it with, and this is a very critical description, a quality or trait. doing it with joyous curiosity. Think about those words, joyous curiosity, and being courageous in that. To me, being courageous before high performance was, I'm going to say something, you're not going to like it, and we're going to get in an argument. Like, that's where it went for me. But now I'm like, I'm going to say something, you may not like it, but let's grow from it. And I'm going to keep the loving overarch versus a neutral negative overarch. That makes sense. Then we go to productivity, influence, purpose. All of these topics build the case for us living a life of intention versus a life of impulse. And it's really critical as we think about the highest performing entrepreneurs, and you seem to be one from what you shared with me, is that we have a clarity about what we're offering. And is it tied to recurring revenue? And do we have a set of behaviors that ask the right questions to really generate clients around that recurring revenue? Or are we asking questions that aren't right? And I love the way you worded this when you opened up, how we want to have the ideal customer and client. So in order to really get that sort of, we call it pre-qualification. When somebody calls you or types in on your website their email and says, I'm interested, what are the questions you're asking to determine whether they're your ideal customer or not? And then before that, I know you know this, is wording your website and your videos and all that to say, hey guys, here's the kind of people we are, why it's important to us to do this. We're family oriented. We love helping people. We celebrate the fact that early on, a mentor of mine, my grandpa, helped me just really get to the core of being compassionate with you. So I could be that as a person. Then we step into what we do. And it's when we have that wording, even in text, that people are like, oh, I love these guys. Or, you know what, that's not my language. That helps us inform and connect and get those conversions, right? So I just want to make sure we're tying this all together. That's what I'm doing now. Just to sum it up, got two businesses. One is still the ongoing development and continuity marketing. That's the Internet Services Group. And then second one is Life and Business Success Group. And that's the training, teaching, coaching. We're in our 4th year with our membership program. It's been absolutely amazing. I can tell you that we're in 4 years. That we just started this August was our 4-year celebration. Wow. And and so that's generated well over, let's see, that was purely organic too. That wasn't any funnels or anything. Now we're going to scale. That's generated well over $1 million. Let's see, 87% profit over the last 4 years. And I have an incredibly lean life. That's just who I am today. Thanks to Tim Ferriss in 2006, talking about sell 90% of your stuff, get the stuff you actually need, love, and use, and then go out and experience life. Our membership program. So that's a big part of all that. So I don't know if that helps inform. Do you have any questions or any insights, thoughts, takeaways, or anything you want me to expand more on? I'd be happy to.
I like it all. The comments are not coming in right now from Facebook. But I know we're going to have some questions going forward, and we have your information right here so people can reach out and connect with you. We do have about 8 minutes left, and I want to make sure you get across anything you want to get across. I'm a big fan of almost everything you've said. I don't know what I wouldn't be. I'm curious, so I think that you and I should probably talk too, because I think,
man.
Yeah, I think some of my clients could use some of your services now as we speak, right? Because just mentally, I mean, you're right. At the beginning, when you're looking at having your ideal customer and client, right, you want to, I don't want to talk somebody into it. I want clients that already know the value of what they're getting. I don't even charge my clients until after I get them the results. So there's no risk. But then sometimes you'll have a client who comes on and they're just not sure if the internet works. You know, their friend Billy tried it and it didn't work for them. So they're, so they're skeptical, right? Yeah. And I really don't, I'm not here to hold your hand. I mean, I'm here to tell you what's available and to, be supportive, but in a professional way, not a psychologist way, and make you money. You know what I mean? So my ideal client is somebody who's already understands the value of being on the internet or being, where people can find you. Because if they can't find you, they can't flow you, right? That's it. And then how can you get your recurring income? You can have all the best funnels, you can have the best websites, the best service, the best products. But if ultimately people can't find you, you're never going to have recurring income because they never bought from you in the first place. So that's my idea. So I like how you spoke on that. And I really like how you help people with their mindset, because it's so important. You know, if you are getting out of bed and your first thing in your mind is, oh, I have to go to the gym, I have to get dressed, I have to come back, I have to take a shower, I have to do this, I have to do that. I mean, that puts everything into a negative frame. But if instead, you know, right from there, instead of, you said, I get to, beautiful. Now I get to go to the gym. I come back. I'm going to have something nice to eat. I'm going to clean up, take a shower. I'm going to get right to work. That mindset, if you can get from the I have to I get to, or I can, or I have the opportunity, or I'm blessed with the ability to, mindset is so important. So I'm a big fan of that. But I'll let you just, you know, finish out the next couple of minutes.
Yeah. So the way I love to end all of my work is to assure that you have a very clear action list to move forward with. So there's the principles being put into action for you if you feel like you need to grow or you need to go after these endeavors. So going way back through everything we talked about in this session, just thinking about, okay, who are the mentors? And I love how you even framed that up. Who are the mentors that I really need to, or that I had in my life that I need to reconnect with if they're still alive, or even their values or what they taught me that I need to reconnect with. So as I was talking about with my grandpa, he taught me compassion, care, but he also taught me the value of exchanging value, making sure that I was providing things that help people grow somehow. And then I just kept that in mind. Because like you said, when I talked with Ed, that very pivotal day when he talked about the insurance company, I could have been like, well, that works for you, but that wouldn't work for me. But I didn't. And a really question I want you to think about this is, what's the mindset if people are giving you, like in this particular session, right? People are giving you some steps. Are you taking decisive action on them? Or are you just poo-pooing them and being like, you know what, that may work for him, but that doesn't work for me? Because that's the pivotal shift that so many people need. Just, all right, well, let me try this and let me think about it. So when we bring this into actionable tactics, we think about the idea of, what are the behaviors that you have that are supporting you towards growing your business or improving other people's lives or growing other people's businesses? What are the questions that you maybe need to readjust or ask that could be better? When we go back to what we talked about a little earlier, that you want fries with that. What's the question you're not asking in your business that could, you know, be an upsell or could be another line of service that you could provide? And I'll give you a few that have worked really well with people I've coached. One, hey, you know me for doing this, whatever your topic is, your service, solution, product. You know me for selling this or doing this. With what you know about me and our team, is there anything else you think we could do to help your business grow? And that open-ended question, delivered with love, care, and compassion, results in really great feedback if you have customers who love you or like you, right? They'll be like, oh, you know what? You know, these are some of the things I'm struggling with that I kind of would be great if we could just keep it under one bill per month. Or these are other things that I'm buying that I think that you guys might be able to help me with. I don't know. Do you guys do that stuff? Because a lot of businesses, and you may know this too, Ron, like they just don't tell their customers the other things they do with any kind of strategy. It's just like, oh yeah, you didn't know we did that? So my big question for entrepreneurs is, do you have active campaigns in play throughout the year, maybe quarterly, that let people know, hey, you know what, we do this, but we also do this. Maybe another quarter, we do this as well. We do this as well. And just kind of building that in. And again, that requires that growth mindset, requires the right questions to ask. And the final thing is, and this is a big part of the arc of my life, as you probably see, I got my girls up here. My two, I consider them, they're 16 and 18. My very important legacy I'm going to leave on the planet. In the history of the world, I'm going to be on this planet for, a short amount of time, right? Compared to the length of the world, millions of years. These two are the things I'm forwarding. These two beautiful girls are the things I'm forwarding in the world. And everything that I do, I assure that they have a good role model, a good results expert, as much as I can be, but that we're also growing together and I'm co-creating a life with them. So when we think about all the stuff we've talked about from the work side and getting the customer side, why? What's it all for? And I want to end on that challenge, just to take some time, maybe 15 minutes, get a journal out or a piece of paper out or a Word document and type, what's it all for? Nice. Why am I doing what I do?
What's your why?
That goes, yep, what's your why? And with that, I think we're pretty well at the end of our time. Any other final questions before we wrap up?
No, I love it. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you myself. Again, some of my clients may need some of your services. Hell, I might be able to utilize some of your systems and stuff that you have set up, you know, subcontract, whatever. But this has been a great interview, and I'm grateful that you shared with us. And I hope people go back and listen to the whole thing right from the very beginning, because, you know, hearing that, you know, right from the beginning, like you said, you could have heard it and said, oh, that works for you, but it would never work for me. You know, there are so many people, probably 95% of the people are in that mindset, and they're just stuck in that brick and mortar, you know, give me, I'll work for 1 hour, give me something. But they don't understand either. I mean, I don't want to get too technical here, but if I'm paying you $20 an hour, in order for that to work for me as a business owner, I have to make at least 60. Because I make the 60, I pay you the 20, and when you then I have, you know, the 40 left, right? I got to pay for the advertising, the marketing, the taxes, you know, the insurance, the FICA, and you know what I mean. So, you know, when I hear these crazy numbers of, you know, people, you know, want astronomical amounts of money, they think that that's what the business owner. But no, if the business owner is paying you 20, he's really paying like 34. And that's before taxes. Then whatever's left over, he's paying another 35.3% on taxes. So there's such a disconnect on how things really work between employees and employers, and it creates, you know, conflict. But
you're so right. Thanks for sharing that too, by the way.
Yeah, but you're not. But you wouldn't have to worry about it if you got into some business that had recurring income.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's the part I love, is that when we think about what I've shared and what you've shared, it's like, let's just build this so it sustains and hits our break even. And let's just go out and serve and not worry about, you know, making ends meet and so on. Let's just blast past that and live into who we want to be, and the fuel for the why. So that could be the better, for me, the better dad, the better husband, the better friend, family member. And that really does fuel me. Now, I grew up with that. So a lot of people are like, that's your story. But sometimes we got to connect to that, because the essence of every business is relationships, and relationships built on care, compassion, authenticity, honesty. Those are the things that great businesses today are crushing. You know what? They have those qualities, traits, characteristics. They're crushing it, especially at the small scale, entrepreneurial level.
Excellent. And I love it. And you've been a great guest. And this will be up live on YouTube and throughout a whole bunch of different social media.
Awesome.
In a day or two. And then I'll send you all the different formats that you're free to share it.
Yeah, sounds good. And then on my website that's on the link, there's 3 different assessments: a life, a business, online. And that just helps me understand, if you decide you want to, you know, talk with me or whatever, helps me understand where you're at and where we need to work. So I just want to make sure when you get on, you'll see those options. And thank you so much. Really appreciate this time. It was an honor being on your show. Rocking it out. I'm looking forward to connecting with you offline too. You have a great day. You too. Take care. You too. Bye-bye.